Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. Alright folks, here we are after market close on Thursday, September 21st. We're going to take a look at Novo Integrated Sciences today. So we're going to start here in the Weeble chart. Then we're going to flip over to the Think or Swim study and see what things look like there. And we'll call it a video. So Novo, I've never looked at this stock before. I haven't charted it, obviously. And scrolling left to sort of see if there was previous price action at this price point. And I saw this massive gap that was left, I guess, last October when the stock fell almost 62% in a day. So first thing I'm going to do is note this gap. So I'm going to gray this out because it's currently in the gap. So that's part of the reason why I think the price action is so erratic lately. Because it's in a gap, it doesn't have a ton of previous price action to go off of. You see a sort of plummet into that range and then a further plummet to leave that big gap. So as you see, it's situated right now in the gap. This is the lower portion of the gap. That's the upper portion of the gap. And it hasn't yet filled it. It's come sort of close, I mean, relatively speaking, but it certainly hasn't filled it yet. So that's the first thing that sort of stands out to me. And then, being the gappy monster that it is, Novo also has a gap here from this day. So I'm just going to note this. This is a gap to the downside, obviously. And there's another gap as well. Gappy. So I don't know if it will ever come to fill any of these gaps. Even the one that it's partially filled. I don't know that it will complete filling that. This is not a crystal ball channel. So if you're looking for precise predictions of someone who will tell you that they certainly know exactly where a stock is going, you are on the wrong channel, my friend. You can get plenty of those other places. It's not what I do. I give us levels that the price moves through consistently that are potentially important to pay attention to and see what the price does when it hits those ranges in the future. All right, so I'm going to put in some support and resistance levels. We have the gaps in here. We know that we were in this gap. We've now left the gap, obviously. So I'm going to put in some support and resistance levels around where we are now, and that will be the usefulness of the Weeble chart. Put in a level here. 21, about 22 to the downside. 25 just above that, which is also below where the price is currently. So while there's only a little bit of recent price action at these levels, these are pretty solid. Top wick there, bottom wick here, bottom candle body there, near candle bottom today as well. So I feel pretty good about that one. Candle body on this one, near candle body on these two, candle body on this as well. So those levels are sitting pretty solid in my mind. I would say there's a little bit of a dicier level. Right around here, I would say. You see candle wick. So resistance to support, and in between, a near miss off both the body and the wick on this candle here. So a little something there to keep an eye on. We'll put in a couple of other levels because, this could obviously move quite a lot, quite quickly. So I don't want to get tapped out of our levels just after like a day or two of having the chart drawn out. Well, it could happen anyway, but this I'm not going to put in. It looks to me like there's a level at about 18 here, but a half penny later and you're rubbing up against this gap. So I'm just going to, I guess, verbally make a note of it. And if it gets really sticky in that price range, we can come in and put some more granular levels in there. This is a really solid level, I think, for the first resistance level, up 28.32. Candle body. So I feel pretty good about that one. This gap has been filled, at least by the wick. So if that volume is sufficient, then we may not have to worry about that gap. Well, I guess worry would not be the word for the bulls, right? They would want it to be thoroughly integrated into that gap. Put a level, this one's a bit tricky as well. Okay, we'll sort of split the difference and say right there about 30. All right, so let's zoom in and see how these levels look intraday. So if we had these levels on the chart coming into the day today, we would have seen it trying to base above 25 and coming into open, skip the level here at 28 basically, and then shrug off the 30, come down, retest the 28 and lose it, and then put in a higher low on this swing, which is a good sign, and then a bunch of volume rushed in, pushed it all the way up, tried to push through this 31 level, couldn't quite hold it, based over this 30 level, and had a little bit of a sort of a hiccup step at this 28, and then lost it into close. So those levels holding up pretty solid intraday today. Now is that 31 the top? Okay, I'm gonna put in a level above that, because I mean, if it's already stretching through, like I said, I don't want to get tapped out of levels immediately if we don't have to. I mean, we can't perfectly adjust for it because we don't know where it's going to go. But okay, these are the levels to me to the upside if it is able to stretch and continue to push. Now, I don't know if it puts in some additional candles, if it's going to start putting in, you know, something resembling a bit of an uptrend support here, but it, you know, I certainly wouldn't draw that in with any confidence at all off of 2 candles. Like that's a crazy thing to do. Also, I'd note, you know, if we look at, say, from this point forward, at least, you know, all the large volume has been green candles. But the volume has really died down a lot lately. So even though it's still moving, you know, a reasonable amount, like it was up 7 yesterday, it was down 26 the day before. So still some pretty crazy moves, down 15. You know, comparatively speaking, very low volume. So I'm interested to see sort of what happens when the volume comes in, right? Which way is that directed, and how does it react? Now, just keep in mind, we charted these levels on the daily on Webull, and when we zoomed into the 10-minute. Now, when we flip over to Thinkorswim, we're going to look at the hour time frame. Still Novo, obviously. But sitting here, just sort of, let's scroll back a little bit and just sort of see what's been happening, because today it spent the day triggering here on the TTM squeeze. So let's not worry about the channel for the moment. Let's focus on the TTM squeeze. I want to see what previous, because we have a bunch of recent ones. So we saw it was triggering here, and then when it fired, this was a pretty good call out. So this triggered right up until about 27 cents or so, and when it fired, it took it up into the 40s. So a really good motion there. Triggered again as it moved sideways, and then it fired. Yes, this is another good call out. You know, mid 30s, took it up to 53 when it fired. Quick trigger, so it's sort of like a hiccup trigger, I would call it. Didn't really point much of anything, but trigger here as it was moving relatively sideways, and then this brought it down, so the other direction on the fire, from about 33 down to about 20. So another really good call out. So I'm going to pay pretty strong attention to the fact that this has been triggering basically all day today and has been moving sideways. That has been the recipe in these previous setups. Triggering, and the price action is moving sideways. Triggering, price action is moving sideways. And it's moving sideways, obviously, around the mid-range of the channel. It's having some stretch up and down, but it's basically just continuously batting itself back to the mid-range of the channel. So I'm really interested to see when this fires, when we get those first green dots coming in, which direction is it moving and how big is the move? Because if recent past tells us anything, these have been pretty solid callouts. Now, TTM indicator is an indicator. It's not 100%. It can fail. It can fluster traders because they're sort of relying on it too much. So we don't want to put, 100% of our faith into it. It's an indicator. It can sort of give you a misindication of a move. So that could certainly happen, but we have a few examples here recently of where the call out was really solid, and so I'm interested to see what happens. Now, the other interesting thing here is you see this 180 to 200 EMA cloud was well below previously, and it didn't do much to hold it here. It held it for a few candles, but then quickly flipped it to resistance and reconfirmed resistance here, which, caused a big sell-off. And then it's been butting its head against it here, back to the midline, and then today even was sort of finding a bunch of resistance at that level again. So that's going to be a critical component as well. If this results in a major upswing, what happens? It's going to have to push through that cloud if it's going to have a major upswing, or does that cloud sort of provide the tremendous resistance needed that when this fires, it gives it a real strong bearish momentum from the get-go? We'll see. But that's where I'm saying we have levels that we're looking at, but the critical piece of the puzzle is we need to see what the price does when it gets to those levels. We're saying it's likely to get to these levels, likely to sort of find a critical space at these levels, but we don't know what it's going to do. I found one more level that I think is worth putting in. So this does look cluttered on the daily, I'll give you that. But when you zoom in, you have a relatively clean chart to look at. So that's the purpose. I'm not doing this to look at the daily. I'm doing this to look at the intraday more so. All right, folks, I hope that your trading week is going well and that you finish it off strong tomorrow. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.